All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football, and it is round two of the college football playoff. These games are in the classic bowl game location, the Sugar Bowl, the Rose Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, and you can't forget the Capital One Orange Bowl as well. I'm joined by my co-hosts. Well, we'll save that joke for a later day, maybe in April. Fresh, how you doing, baby?
Top's doing great. Playoff time, round number two. The top four seeds are finally getting to come from hibernation and showcase and try to go win a national championship and prove their top four seeding is actually worthy. So we got a lot on the line now. And after last year, the top four seeds all going down, there's a lot of pressure on them to show up, even though it's not the same four teams, but the top four seeds to show up over the New Year's holiday and get some W's.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really sick of just hearing about just last year and oh, the top four seeds lost, the top four seeds lost, and people acting like whatever happened last year, we're just going to hit rewind on the tape player and play it back again. And the same exact thing is going to happen. I have a very, very hard time believing that's going to happen with these four top seeds here as well. Because again, different
It's a lot
teams, different
different too.
players. You're right.
But it's also, they was the four conference champions. And so
Right.
Boise State was put in there. Arizona State, obviously, that situation, Georgia and then Oregon. Now it's the four best teams in the country, which the way it should have always been. Just because you win your league, or apples to oranges, I think we're going to get a little bit of a different outcome this time around.
Right. And I'm all for if you win your league, you get a spot in the dance. I like that part, but it doesn't mean you get an automatic first round bye. So, all right, well, let's start with the first one. Let's go to the Cotton Bowl. This is going to be New Year's Eve, 7:30 in Jerry World. It is the Miami Hurricanes versus the Ohio State Buckeyes. At time of record, Ohio State is a 9.5-point favorite in this game. Miami, great defensive performance by them against Texas A&M, holding them to 3 points in Kyle Field. Impressive run out of them. Ohio State coming off that loss to Indiana. A lot of things went on during that week. Brian Hartline, their offense coordinator, finds out he's going to be the new head coach at USF. During the time off, Ryan Day is going to take over play calling, but Brian Hartline still will be involved in the offense here. So, man, who's not dealing with two different jobs here. I look back at that Texas A&M Miami game, and that game was won by Fletcher and the ground game by the Hurricanes. It was not a Carson Beck game. I think it's going to be a very different thing against this Matt Patricia and Ohio State defense here, Fresh. What do you got, Miami versus Ohio State?
Well, first off, hopefully Ohio State fans aren't scared of a New Year's Eve kickoff with Ryan Day taking over the play calling with Carson Beck in the house. Because last time that happened, there's a kicker that had all the pressure in the world on him and kind of struggled. So hopefully Ohio State can take advantage of that and not put their fan base through that stress.
Well, at
Once
least
again,
the officials will know what targeting is this time. So
they made the right call last time.
no.
But in this case, this is going to fall the real pressure on Miami. Because we've heard for all this time of Miami's back. You went down there, you won a slugfest versus A&M, but now you're up a weight class. Again, the reigning national champions, you have to show up. Carson Beck, you're going to have to make some big boy throws. When your receivers have to make some big boy catches. And when they don't, that's when Carson tries to force it and gets a little skittish, makes some mistakes, overthrows some balls. It's happened. He's got to be mentally square to come into this football game and be able to deliver. That's why he's getting paid all that NIL money. That's why he went to Miami. He wants to prove himself. Well, now you have a chance to show up. Or the Sid from the Ice Age jokes will continue because you just do this and that, but when it really matters, you're never there. Fletcher has got to deliver, and I think Miami's going to have to run the football in this game. The offensive line, Cristobal, and the offensive line is supposed to be this big-time offensive line development situation. Well, now's your chance because you're going to face off against a tremendously talented defensive front in Ohio State. And if you look at Ohio State pass rush get after it, Carson Beck's going to get sacked 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. Fletcher in that running game is going to have to be frequent and very successful to maintain drives, to maintain time possession, and to keep Julian Sand, Jeremiah Smith, and that entire lethal Ohio State offense on the sideline. This is going to be a patience over rational approach for this Miami offense. Shannon Dawson does a great job calling it, but he's going to have to sometimes maybe choke his own pride a little bit and say, we've got to run the football. We've got to go 3 yards in the cloud depth. We've got to be able to maintain down distance. We cannot put Carson Beck in that offense in a 3rd and long situation because that pass rush is going to be unleashed and it's going to create some serious situations. And throwing late over the middle with Caleb Downs in that secondary is going to create some problems for Tony and that entire, Miami offense. This is going to have to be more of a humbling and approach and a business-like mentality for the Hurricanes if they're going to win. Now, with that said, they're going to have to score more than 10 points. To win this football game, they're going to have to at least surpass 24 points to beat Ohio State because I do not trust the Miami defense. As greatly improved as it's been, I do not trust the Miami defense to hold Ohio State to 14 or less points. Even in Ohio State's 2 worst outputs, the 14 points versus Texas in week 1, and then was it 13 or 10 versus
10.
Indiana in the Big Ten title game. They were going against defenses that had tremendous talent, and I think are better than Miami's at all levels. So you're going to have some times where if Ohio State's going to score, you're going to have to be able to deliver and match punch for punch. It's going to require a total team effort. And if Miami, you want to prove that you're back, I'm not saying to win this football game, you're going to say you're back, but you have got to actually show up and be competitive. If you get the doors beat off of you, everyone's going to be like, yeah, but whatever. Go out and find another quarterback, spend some more money in the portal like you have been the past 2 years, and move forward. If Miami wants to be back, this has to be like a 27-24 down to the last play kind of battle like we saw in the early 2000s in the Fiesta Bowl for the national championship. There's got to be a full focus, and the Hurricanes have got to play with a little swagger, but discipline at the same time. The Miami's defense is going to have success. It's going to have to come from that front 7, especially the defensive line, where they're shutting down that Ohio State running game, but also that pass rush, getting home and delivering on Julian Sayin. They've got to be disruptive. They've got to be able to get home and cause Sayin to make some irregular throws, some quick throws, get him uncomfortable because he sits back there all day long. Their receiver talent for Ohio State is going to be unmatched and unchallenged down the field, and they're going to have a field day. You've got to find ways to deliver and be physical. Be physical. Look at Indiana and Texas. The reason why they were able to be competitive on the field with Ohio State is they were physical at all levels on the defensive side of the ball. If that can come through, you'll have some success. Ohio State wise, Julian saying, I think you've gotten that deep breath moment after going up to Michigan and winning, and then playing Indiana in a heightened environment. I think now he's kind of got his feet settled under him. I was still kind of hesitant coming in with ball games. Like he hadn't really been tested in a hostile environment. You got through it. Deep breath. It's going to be pro Ohio State fans in Dallas anyway. 8 Miami fans in the world. And I think only 6 of them can afford to make the trip. So you're not going to have much of a hostile environment. It's going to be Jerry World. It's going to be tons of Ohio State fans. Just settle in, take a deep breath. Don't get overwhelmed by the moment and throw the ball to your receivers. The guys wearing the guys wearing scarlet and gray, making the throws when you have to. Don't feel intimidated. You have the best team in the on the field at this moment. You have to be able to embrace that and be focused. Don't feel like you're intent. I don't have the supporting cast. You have the ground game. You have the receivers. The offensive line will evolve as it goes. Make the throws when you have to. It's okay to take a sack. I think that's what Ryan Day also needs to tell him. In a big game like this, it's okay to take a sack. A sack is better than turnover. You have the talent to recover, but don't feel like you have to do something bigger than the moment. Look at what Carson Beck's biggest faults on the other side is that sometimes he tries to do too much instead of just taking the sack or throwing it away. If you can embrace the moment, just make the right throw or take the sack, lift, play another down, you will be successful. Ohio State's defense, we thought last year was great. This year's defense is so much better. If they can focus in on take away Tony and put the pressure on Carson Beck to hold the ball somebody else, like that is where you're going to see some tremendous success. He's going to hold the ball a little bit longer and the pass rush should get home. I think the first half will be a battle, but Ohio State will pull away. And Jeremiah Smith will have 2 touchdowns by the end of the night, and Ohio State will cover that 9.5.
Question, this one for me, it comes down to who else does Miami have? Like we know the names. You're going to talk about, Fletcher. You're going to talk about Tony. Which one of those guys that are in the supporting roles, whether it's Marion, whether it's Daniels, whether it's Brown, the running back, which one of the supporting characters can have a game, and they're going to need that for this to win, for Miami to win this football game against this Ohio State team? Because here's what Ohio State's defense is going to do. They're going to bracket Malachi Tony, and they're going to have a linebacker spying on the running back coming out of the backfield and watching for a run on that one. So which of the other guys is going to be able to win their matchup? I mean, that's real easy defense 101 there. And the one other thing that's going to give Beck problems is Patricia does so many great things coming up to the line of scrimmage. He shows you one thing and changes it completely up. you can only do that at a handful of schools. You can only do that style of defense at maybe 5, 6 schools in the entire country because they have the horses to do those things. They have the kids that are smart enough behind the ears to be able to play an NFL style defense there. The question comes down to it, is Carson Beck able to read those defenses and see what is on tape? Our history shows that he can't do that. When he goes up against great teams, he can't do those things. So that's where I really come into question as well. For Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith is pissed off. And again, I think people don't get, while losing to Indiana in the Big Ten title game, it was kind of like, okay, like it didn't really resonate with Ohio State fans. Like, yeah, it stinks that you aren't Big Ten champions, but it didn't really resonate that there was because there's a bigger picture at play. And Ohio State, since the Oregon loss last season, it has been 7 top 10 teams and has won 6 games against top 5 teams rated there. I think this team is very angry. I think they're angry that they lost. I think it's the whole thing where it goes back to the dodgeball quote, no one makes me bleed my own blood. And I think they got their nose a little bloodied and go, okay, time to turn it on. Because I think Ryan Day has a different level of motivation. And the one thing I loved about Ohio State coming into the season was the fact that they told majority of the players on that team, you didn't win a national title last year. Like, you weren't one of the key contributors. Outside of Jeremiah Smith, like Carnell Tate a
Caleb
bit,
Downs.
and Caleb Downs, like which one of them really showed up? Arvell Reese has been one of the best linebackers in America right now. I love this Ohio State team. I love this defense there as well. King fans still are not over 2002 and the correct pass interference call on Chris Gamble. But what I'll also say, my favorite thing was hopefully the refs don't rig it like they did in 2002. I'll say, you're right. We have instant replay. And if you guys all remember, go back and watch the game film. Chris Gamble made the catch inbounds, which would have had time expire, and Ohio State wins the national title in regulation. Game never goes to overtime. Doesn't have to change. So if you want to talk one play, you got to talk the other play as well there. But Miami fans don't ever want to hear that. So listen, this
There's
Miami
only 8 of
team,
them, Seth. Seth, there's only 8 of them. So
that's
really,
true.
I mean,
I
it's
mean,
like
I'm sure there's a
it's
couple
a
more
chat
out
it's a
there.
chat session in the basement of a church about.
I mean, I know one of them, work
So
with
you
one of them. I make,
7 more.
right. So there's got to be 7 more out there. But this Miami team is a good football team. They've done things the right way. But again, I can't believe that they like hitched their horse to Carson Beck a little bit on this one. Again, he's got to show it in this game. He's got to show his ability to read defenses. And again, he's going to be drafted out. He's going into the NFL draft this year. How much money did he really cost himself by his time at Georgia? And then foregoing the NFL draft, like, is he going to wind up being a 2nd round, 3rd round pick, or is he going to wind up being a 6th, 7th round pick?
Well, I think in this game he's going to have to, like, whether win, lose, or draw. If he wants to get drafted, you're going to have all the combine stuff where they're throwing against air and shorts and whatnot and all the super
Right. And he's
drills.
going to look good in that.
But you're going to need to come out here and look competent because the last you've had some throws, but against the good defenses you played, you didn't really put on a show versus A&M. And in your 2 games versus Texas last year at Georgia, the game in Austin, you threw a couple picks. You didn't look crisp. You made a couple throws late in the ball game, which you had to on 3rd down, but early on you were kind of uneasy, and you had happy feet in the first half in the dome in the bend. In big games, we've seen this reoccurring effort, and this is the biggest game of all. Like Miami won the playoff. You're in the playoff. This is why you came to Miami. You need to deliver. You didn't get your playoff appearance last year at Georgia because you were hurt. Win, lose, or draw, you had a chance to make it for that. You have to show up here. Tony and Daniels and the entire cast have got to make big boy plays. If not, after the same thing is like, well, great. You're a blip on the radar, but the U is not back. The U is just,
Right.
you're a team in the ACC. He's going to have to make like the 3rd down throws on time, not get discouraged. If a guy drops the ball, he can't get flustered. That's what NFL coach, in the NFL, you're going to have guys drop the football. It's football in general. People are going to drop the ball. How do you respond to that adversity and be able to show up and make the next play work? Because if you don't have what you mentioned between the ears for Ohio State,
Mm-hmm.
if Carson Beck doesn't have what's between the ears, then what use are you to an NFL football team?
Right.
Because it's much more cerebral in the NFL than it is in college.
All right, Fresh. Let's go to this second game. This is at high noon. Make sure you got the ginger ale going on.
Get your high noons while you're at it.
Yeah, high noons and maybe, hair of the dog on this one on January 1st, because this is going to be at noon. The Capital One Orange Bowl down in Miami. The Oregon Ducks traveling completely across country to face the Texas Tech Red Raiders. At time of record right now, Oregon is a 2.5 point favorite against Texas Tech. Gosh, I'm going to put this out here as well. I legitimately think that one of the greatest snubs this entire season is the lack of conversation about Dante Moore. And I feel like it's almost been non-existent all season long. This kid has been absolutely phenomenal in that Oregon offense. And I think a lot of it has to do that Oregon plays on the West Coast, and a lot of things for college football are east of the Mississippi River. And Oregon only had maybe about one or two high profile games that got the eyes of the nation upon them. And he played well in those games, but this kid, if you go back and look at what he was like at UCLA 2 years ago, and that last year where they had Chip Kelly, and what he has become, honestly, if I'm an NFL team, like, I'm watching this game because Texas Tech's defense is very good, and seeing how this kid plays, this could cement him as either I think he's a first round pick anyways, but this kid could be like, okay, he's the top 5 pick. Maybe he gets that. He's going to be the top quarterback in the draft here. I think everyone in the NFL is going to be watching this game, especially for Dante Moore, see how he responds. Texas Tech, again, I like how they've done it. I like Joey McGuire. I think we were talking about Texas Tech last year. We were a year early on them. They've done a great job there in Lubbock. I can't wait to see this game. I think this is the game I'm most excited to watch, like, just as a college football fan. What say you?
Yeah. So Texas Tech, Oregon football players, staff members, whoever. I know you're gonna be tempted. It's South Beach, it's not too far away. You're gonna have a great time. It's gonna be New Year's Eve. You have an early kickoff. Don't mess it up by staying up too late or trying to go out and party, trying to break curfew. Because if
Mm-hmm.
y'all remember in Varsity Blues, they go to the club the night before a game, they hang out, they walk out with the sunshine. It doesn't
Yep.
end up too well for
Nope.
the football teams. Resist the urge to be a fool on New Year's Eve. You're
Right.
out there from your business trip to Miami. Do what you have to do. Get in bed on time. Put up the noise canceling stuff you have to, the net sound machine to let you go to sleep. Black out your curtains and just get your rest because you're going to be at the stadium early in the morning. It's a noon kickoff. You've got to be ready to operate. This is the biggest game. I will say it's the biggest game in Texas Tech football history. Much more pressure on Texas Tech to deliver than Oregon. Because we've seen Oregon play for a national title. We've seen Oregon play in Rose Bowls. We've seen Oregon even play last week in a home playoff game. Like, they've been through the motions a few times. Texas Tech, you had to go through BYU for a Big 12 title. Oh, people the Oklahoma fans and Texas fans and that region will still say, we had to leave the league for you guys to go win a title.
Mm.
You have to now, that game won a conference championship. Great. Congratulations. But this game forward is the biggest game in Texas Tech football history. And you've got to be able to show up and make all that oil money deliver on the field. So you have to be ready to focus. You cannot get lost in the haze or the distractions or the pump and circumstance of being a top 4 seed. You have to deliver because Oregon now already got the kinks out. They worked through it last week. They went through the motions. Yeah, it was JMU, but JMU came back and made it a ball game. They kind of had their attention. You have to be focused. Whatever you've done up this point is meaningless once you step on that field on Thursday morning in Miami Gardens. Texas Tech's front seven, you've got to show up because that defense, the offensive line for Oregon has been the best you're going to face all year. You've got to be able to get home and tackle all that money you spent, all those guys, all the NIL values you have. And you've got to deliver when it's on the line. Dante Moore can be able to move a little bit. He's going to have some, some mobility on the edges. You're going to have to go chase him down, be mindful of that. That running game for Oregon's been very successful. The receiver issues, they've had some injuries there, but those guys hopefully are probably, healthy. We want to have a full game here. But if your pass rush is not getting home, I don't trust your secondary to be able to match up with that receiver count for Oregon. Your front seven, especially that front four, has got to get home and force quick releases and confusion to allow the secondary to jump short routes. If you're letting him run around for days, that receiving core is going to be able to run around, create separation, and make big plays down the field. You've got to deliver when it matters. From here on forward, Texas Tech's front seven, especially that pass rush, has got to deliver. Offensively, Texas Tech, Morton, you've got to score points. You can't just come out here like you score late versus BYU. You score late in other games where early in, you sort of trudge through in that third and fourth quarter, you pull away. You need to score early and set the tone and allow that pass rush to really dictate and come home and you can secondary can play off. Because if you're in a battle, we have not seen you actually play a final possession kind of game all year. You've been able to build comfortable
Hmm.
leads and let the defense sort of separate. This game is going to be a full quarter fight. Can you be able to score, go drive for drive, score for score against a very talented Big Ten, but national renowned power who's recruited at multiple levels? Dan Lanning has been able to coach up this team. This hasn't been the best Dan Lanning Oregon football team we've seen in the past couple of years, but it might be the most untapped talent wise. A lot of those
Right.
young
I
recruiting
like that.
guys who had the past kind of years, we're starting to see their feet get under them, linebacking wise, defensive line wise, secondary wise, where have they been able to take in the coaching? Are they mature enough to handle the expectation? And then the other underlying overarching factor is last year they were the number one overall seed in the Rose Bowl, Big Ten champs, undefeated, and they got the doors beat off of them. They got so destroyed by Ohio State that I don't really care. Them playing JMU probably didn't matter. This game was their focus of
Hmm.
now we have to redeem ourselves from last year. You're going to get a very angry Duck team. Kind of like the World War II, like Donald Duck drawings, where he looked angry and was like, I'm going to have to carry a bomb. Kind of like the angry, like, I'm going to come after you and ready
Hmm.
for a fight. So Texas Tech, you need to be, whatever's up to this point has happened, all the patting on the back, all the glory, you kind of forget it. None of that matters because it's going to be used against you if you lose. If you win, great. All the NIL money's been put in. But if you lose, like, oh, you spent all that money, you beat BYU for a Big 12 title. Congratulations, your best year ever. What do you have to show for it? You got a trip to Miami on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Joe McGuire, I still don't know if you're the best coach. I think there's still some doubters. Like, if you don't win with all this talent at a high level, if you're not playing in it as a semifinal, Final Four team in the college football playoff, there's still going to be some doubters of is he really the right guy? We've given him all the resources. There's no lack of it, but he still can't deliver us, a true national prominence. That is going to be their overarching factor. You know what? There's agents who have other guys who are up and coming coaches will start spewing that, or donors will start saying, "Is McGuire really the guy?" So you've got to yes, there's a lot of unknowns that are coming in here. Very very similar to Arizona State last year, where it's great you won the Big 12, yeah, but you got to show us now at this level that you're actually truly worthy. You survived a gauntlet of Utah and BYU and Baylor and TCU and Arizona State, but what have you really done? What have you really done on a national scale? So there's a lot of storylines coming into play here. I think this is going to be a physical war. This is going to be a full quarter. To your point, this probably might be the best game we're
Hmm.
going to see because they're very evenly matched. And we're going to hear, both these teams have NIL boatload. Both these teams have $20 million NIL on each of their rosters. It's not like there's a lack of talent, but who will deliver for the money? Where's the return on investment from both sides? And in the end, I take Dante Moore as a better quarterback and I mean, Dane Lanning's a more experienced head coach that will allow Oregon to win this game. I think it's going to be a 27-24 final, Oregon winning late. These defenses are talented enough where neither team will make it to 30 unless there's defensive touchdowns. So 27-24, Oregon wins in a classic that we'll probably replay all off season long and summer long in August. You'll watch it 4 or 5 times because it'll probably be one of those games that we'll all look back on and say, you know what? This is the way you want to start New Year's Day. This is the way you start 2026. But buckle up, folks. Get your Bloody Marys, get your mimosas, a hair of the dog, whatever you need. But be ready for noon on Thursday afternoon because that's going to be a fun one between Oregon and Texas Tech. But the Ducks win by a field goal.
Yeah, I was always a big fan of the Gatorade fruit chews that they used to have out there on New Year's Day. That was always, one of the better cures. I always felt like. Press, you said something back there, and I'm going to go back to it because I think this may be one of the best analogies you have used. That this Oregon team is a team that has the most untapped potential out of every team in college football, and I think you are spot on with that one. I think that because and again, you can only play the people that are on your schedule. No one knew that Penn State would wind up being like a shell of itself. Again, you look at Oregon played a very good USC team that offensively had put up some points and they kind of went toe to toe and kind of strangled the life out of USC. You look at what Oregon's done all season long and even the Indiana game, I know it wound up getting out of hand in the fourth, but they did play Indiana pretty tough and put some points up on that defense. I really do think that this is a group of untapped potential. Now, it could just stay untapped potential if they do not beat Texas Tech. Like it could be us talking about Oregon next season. Like if let's say Texas Tech wins this football game, and let's say it's 24-14, 10-point loss, Texas Tech wins. I could very easily see a lot of these Oregon players going, I want to run it back. I could see Dante Moore, who's a redshirt sophomore, saying, you know what? I'm going to get paid by Phil Knight and Nike anyways. I'm going to bring it back for another year. I want another crack at this thing together. And then this Oregon team turns into like kind of a juggernaut almost next season. Because I think that if this team had another year together, if they don't, and again, this is a big if they don't tap into that potential. This team, if they bring everything back together, everyone wants another crack at this thing, and they have another year of chemistry and they have another year. Oregon could be a very scary team in 2026 if they kind of have that feeling of being let down of their performance in the Orange Bowl here. Now, they could tap into that potential and go on a run and be a very formidable force throughout this entire playoff and give anyone fits. And I think they are going to give Texas Tech a lot of fits here. The question for me isn't so much with Texas Tech's offense, it's with their defense. What Texas Tech team are we going to see? And you were talking about how this is the best offensive line that Texas Tech has seen all season long. And I went back and I looked at the Utah game because Utah does have Fano on at the left tackle spot, American left tackle. That Utah offensive line was an above average offensive line, fairly good graded out this year. They had one sack in that game. They had one sack, and that was also in Lubbock. No, that was in Utah. I forgot. Yeah, it's in Salt Lake City. They had 39 sacks on the year. Are they able to get after the quarterback? Are they able to get Dante Moore's jersey dirty in that one? Are they able to force him to throw interceptions and is he able to start seeing ghost here in footsteps? All of those analogies that coaches like to use and say when their quarterback gets a little bit rattled. That's going to be the makeup of this game because here's the thing. Jacob Rodriguez is one of the best linebackers in the country. He's a monster. He's kind of like a do everything. And that entire linebacking core is very, very good. So how does Oregon combat that? Are you going to spread out Texas Tech? Are you going to make them play like four wide, with a running back in the backfield and see what they can do? You don't keep a tight end in to chip or anything like that. But again, you're completely trusting the Oregon offensive line to negate that Texas Tech pass rush and Dante Moore to make the right read. That's going to be the battle all game long that I'm intrigued to watch. Dante Moore's ability to read that defense, get the ball out. He's done a great job all season long doing those things. And I think that's going to be the reason like NFL scouts are going to be at this game and they're going to be salivating. I think they're going to be salivating with, like you said, the guys in the trenches, the guy playing quarterback there, a couple of the wide receivers that they're looking at here as well. And again, Texas Tech and Joey McGuire. Are you able to finish the job? Are you able to finish what you've started here? Or are you another team that we look at going, hey, great regular season, best Texas Tech has had in a really, really long time, if not ever, but you got to the playoff and flamed out.
And to that point, like you make the Final Four, it's a great season.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
somebody has to win a game, somebody has to lose a game. Like you can't say, well, we failed. You make a Final Four, you're in the semifinal, it's great. But this is your playoff game. You don't have an opening round game. You earned the bye, but okay, that but mentality comes in like, well, great, you won the Big 12, which people already have. It's very competitive football, but we've seen Kansas State have great games. We've seen Utah blow a comeback on Kansas State after they had a huge lead. We've seen Kansas be okay. We've seen Iowa State flame out. Colorado has just been a disaster. Baylor and TCU are Jekyll and Hyde.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, okay, where's the true believer in the Big 12? And if you want to actually show you actually accomplish something and you beat quality football teams and who you beat actually is merit, you got to show up on Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon on the Miami Gardens.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be an intriguing one, man. I cannot wait for that game. All right, let's go to the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl. Fresh, this is seriously on my bucket list for us to do someday. I won't do it without you. We're going to someday going to the Rose Bowl there to see the sun go down over the mountains, seeing the lights, the pageantry. Heck, I will be the grand marshal and lead the parade down the street.
With all luck, it'll be Illinois and Vanderbilt.
Still be in the Rose Bowl.
2090, 2054.
Yeah. Would you really care who the matchup was as long as you're
So
at the Rose Bowl?
I will say, so this is I've been to the Super Bowl. I went to the Bengals Rams, and as much as the ticket cost, not having a stress level of I paid this much money to watch my team win or lose and living and dying with every play was actually very therapeutic, and you enjoyed the full experience. So there are some times like going to the Rose Bowl and not having to be fully invested. Well, I just paid X amount and this is all
Right.
on them winning or losing. If they lose, I'll be miserable the entire trip. You make it a bucket list where it's not your team playing. You just enjoy the experience, you enjoy the pageantry, and actually it is you can have an argument where it's actually a better experience because you don't have to stress for the full 60
Hmm.
plus minutes. You can enjoy it and be neutral if that's even possible. And really take the whole entire event in with the parade, the game, the flyover, all of it, and just be there for the entire spectacle.
Yeah, I agree with that for most college football games, man. I would say the same thing with, when we were down at UCF this season
No, let's not compare UCF and
in
North
the Rose
Carolina
Bowl.
to the Rose Bowl. Like that's a we're going
Right.
from that's a big jump. That's
Yeah, it's a huge jump, but being able to, the whole premise of being able just to sit back and enjoy a college football game
yeah. There's
where you
no
don't,
stress.
yeah, there's a huge thing. All right, let's go to Alabama, Indiana here. Time to record. Indiana 6.5 point favorite in this game. Alabama coming off that come from behind win against Oklahoma in Norman there. I think Kalen DeBoer is maybe starting to figure some things out. I still don't completely trust this Alabama team. I I don't know why. I'm waiting. I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting to feel like, and maybe it's just because this Alabama team is so different than the Alabama teams under Nick Saban. I look at it and say maybe it's the fact that Alabama struggles to run the football, but they are a good passing offense here. Indiana is at the point of the table. All right. Now, I'm going to say this fresh. What you said a few minutes ago about how if you make the Final Four, it's got to be considered a successful season for a team like Indiana that a couple of years ago was, I believe, one or two all-time losing program in the country.
They number one all time
One
losses until this season.
until this season.
They
Okay.
just got enough where they're the second most losses in college football history.
Right. And the fact is that they are the number one seed in the playoff. They're playing the Rose Bowl. They're going up against Alabama. I'm going to say that this is the one game and probably the one team that I would say no matter what happens in this game for Indiana, it's been a successful season for you guys. You have taken away the narrative that you don't deserve a spot at the table. You're not a big boy in football. Listen, you wouldn't be 12 or 13-0 and in the Rose Bowl if you weren't a great, high quality program. Kirk Cinetti isn't going anywhere. They're going to continue to do things in Indiana. Now, I will say this: you've set levels of expectation. This is your 1 year of a free pass. Like, this is the only year you'll get a free pass. Now, if you beat Alabama in the Rose Bowl, or even let's say Alabama beat you by one on a last second field goal or something along those lines, Indiana fans, you can hold your head high. You can puff your chest out and say, look, we should never have been there, and feel like you never should have been there in the first place. This is the greatest 2 year run in Indiana history. I think that I think one of the dumbest thing a person can say is going, well, Indiana, look, they're not ready to compete. They're not ready to compete with the likes of Alabama. You know what? The fact that they're even there is the impressive part. And it shows how stupid you are and how much I figured that you don't watch college football. If you're sitting there telling me that, oh, look, this proves Indiana didn't belong just because they lost a college football playoff game against Alabama.
Now, it's kind of way around there. You can look back at the Big Ten title game and say, well, Ohio State didn't really try. It didn't matter. Both teams were a top four seed. It mattered more to Indiana to finally beat Ohio State for the first time in 30 tries after the 30-game losing streak to the Buckeyes. It meant something to the Buckeyes too, because an undefeated season is something they still have not accomplished. at least in the playoff era. Like going in, they got in the first time, they were the 4 seed. Last year they had 2 losses. Being undefeated, going 15-0 is quite the feat. So the Buckeyes were trying. It's just Indiana made a play. There were some red zone issues. It happens. But you know what? And that's kind of where it's like you get that reprieve now in the playoff. Okay, Indiana though, you are on that track for the undefeated season. The pressure continues to mount, and at some point, you go from being the hero to being live long enough to be the victim, or live long enough to be the villain. Obviously, the right quote is in there somewhere. You go out, you go out here and beat Alabama. The pressure continues to get mounting because now we're not the little darling of college football anymore. Now it's I'm ready to beat number one in the country. I'm ready to take down and ruin your undefeated season. And
Hmm.
the the gallery of cheering fans with go Hoosiers and whatnot, the losing program of all time, becomes I want them to lose. I want them to lose in dramatic fashion. To see Kirk Cignetti, who, as we all noticed, had toned down his rhetoric. He talked a lot of trash last year, and after that, he took the offseason and the beginning of the year and kept his mouth much more under wraps. He knew he's like, I'm not going to draw the approach anymore. I'm going to focus on my football team and let my team do the talking. Last year, you had to be a little more brash and to sort of set the tone for the program turnaround. This year's been a little more quiet. But if you keep winning, regardless of what you're signing or not, people are going to want to see the champion, the undefeated team get knocked off. The Patriots, they want to get knocked off. Every time you at the dynasties, like, oh, it was great for the Chiefs the first 2 years. And then was like, well, I'm tired of seeing the Chiefs win. Eventually you become a victim of your own success. So you have to maximize your opportunity right now. Because if you don't win the national championship this year, but you continue to keep winning a Big Ten title or playing for a Big Ten title, people are going to enjoy your demise more than your success. Everyone enjoyed Georgia finally being Alabama, but now everyone wants Georgia to lose. It just goes in cycles. And you have to be able to be tough enough to embrace being great and being able to maintain that success in that period of time. Mendoza, you're the Heisman Trophy winner now. It's not just you're a candidate. You are now the premier athlete in college football at this time. Now, how do you go up there and defend that hardware that you were presented a couple of weeks ago in New York City? You now are going to be critiqued even more about making big boy throws. If you look at statistics on the year, he was pulled early in most games because they're blowing people out. So his stats aren't exactly mind blowing. And he didn't exactly put on a show versus Ohio State. He managed it, but they were able to survive. But he wasn't lights out the most amazing quarterback in the world. He made one great throw versus Penn State versus a terrible Penn State football team to win at the last second. And he made some decent plays early in the year versus Oregon. But how is he going to now, with the pressure in the Rose Bowl, in the moment where none of these guys have been before, to be able to take a deep breath and deliver? You are now, it's not just the Alabama Crimson Tide on the other side of the field. It is, we're now trying to maintain an undefeated season. We're trying to win a national championship. We're the Heisman Trophy. All these great successes now become points of, well, the Heisman Trophy winner again failed in a bowl game, because there's a history of Heisman Trophy winners not having postseason success in a bowl game or a playoff. It's like a regular season, award, but then when it matters, they take it's a target on your back. And hey, are they really that great? Can they deliver when it actually matters? They don't have a second game to sort of, oh, well, you know what? I lost last week, but I can come back this week and have a great one. It's a one and done mentality the rest of the way. The receivers, the guys have been banged up all year, but they should be healthy by now. Are you ready to deliver? You've already shown you can beat Ohio State. You had a great win there. You show you were more physical, especially on defense. I was much more impressed with the Indiana defense versus Ohio State than I was their offense.
Hmm.
You've won at Oregon. You've won at Penn State. You've won in hostile environments. But the Rose Bowl, are you ready to handle that pomp and circumstance of the entire event, of the entire lead up, of the pregame stuff, of the coin flip, all of it, the longer halftime? It's now an environment that Indiana football and these fans, obviously, they're going to flock to Pasadena, have never experienced before. This is are you ready for the shock and awe moment of just being part of the event as opposed to being there to win a playoff game? It takes a lot to sort of take a deep breath and be able to calm yourself down. You didn't have a bowl game last year. You had a trip to South Bend, Indiana. You never actually had to leave the state, and people then really didn't truly believe like Indiana actually better than Notre Dame. Now you have to show up. The pressure's on you to deliver and win. We've all seen Alabama have flaws and warts all season long. They've won. They beat a bunch of ranked teams. They played 5 straight ranked opponents. You can argue that at the time of the game or where they currently are now in the playoff rankings. That's up to you. But they delivered through a gauntlet. They beat Georgia at Georgia. They lost and they obviously got drubbed in the SEC championship game. They went to Oklahoma though and redeemed themselves in a game. They have some liquidity. They also have the legacy of it's Alabama. It's just like playing Ohio State or playing Michigan. We're playing the logo. You also have the pressure of an SEC Big Ten, battle that goes on the the internet and the all the social media platforms.
Hmm.
Alabama wins, then you're going to hear, well, SEC is bigger than the Big Ten champion. But then if Indiana wins, then you have the Big Ten. So you get the conference pride on the line. There's a lot of pressure on in this football game that it comes with the territory. Are you ready for it? And I think Kurt Cignetti is the best head coach to keep Indiana prepared, keep them level set. I mean, this is the biggest game for Fernando Mendoza. Playing at Cal was one thing. It's great. Congratulations. You played for the Cal Bears. But every game now at Indiana, the pressure mounts. And I think he has the mentality to be able to deliver. They have a running game. They have a passing game. The offensive line is right. Everything's been put in place. Cignetti did coach at Alabama. He understands the expectation. He worked under Nick Saban. He has built that team to be prepared for the man. You can coach as much as you want, though, but you have to be able to deliver. Dylan DeBoer has had playoff success. He got the Washington Huskies to play for a national championship. He knows what it takes to win a playoff game and get forward. He beat Texas there. Obviously, last year was a learning curve. They lost some talent at Alabama, but he got them back. He's kept them. He's literally, pun intended, turned the tide to deal with adversity this year. They're not the greatest football team in the world, but they've shown at times they can be really good. They aren't the Alabama Nick Saban teams, but they have their own mentality, good, bad, or indifferent. Can Ty Simpson on the other side keep building off what he did in the second half versus Oklahoma? Are we going to see him just making bad throws and some turnovers? Is the offensive
Hmm.
line for Alabama going to be able to deliver at the line of scrimmage? There's a lot in play in this ball game that it's going to hang around. In the overarching factor, Indiana, you have amazing offense. If you could strike early and put Alabama away, you have the defense to end the football game. But if you let Alabama hang around, do you have the wherewithal to play another full 4 quarter football game? This is going to be a lot there. Um, I don't fully trust Alabama. I've seen they played an average offense in Oklahoma. Their defense has some injuries, but Indiana just has something about them. I like the Hoosiers in this ball game. I think Alabama actually will score early and keep it close. But that second half, Mendoza will get the speed under them coming out in the third quarter, and Indiana will put their foot down offensively and challenge that secondary. I'm thinking Indiana wins this game by double digits.
Wow.
In the fourth quarter, they pull away. I think it's like a 10-point ball game. Alabama's offense, I just don't. There's been too much Jekyll and Hyde. Indiana's been much more consistent across the board all season long. Alabama and Ty Simpson, they have faded at times. They've shown great, but they've just been up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And I can't trust that in a big game. I'm taking Indiana to win by 10. It'll be a big moment for Indiana football, and we're going to hear about the chatter about how the Big Ten's better than the SEC all through the social medias after that game ends. But Indiana's going to show that there are bigger things at play, and they are truly supplanted as I'm not going to say a new blue blood, but a competent football program that can handle a national um, expectation level. That is not just you're in the Big Ten, but you now can beat teams across the country, and your out of conference schedule doesn't matter anymore. They are going to show up and they're going to get it done. If Alabama wins this game, though, either way,
Watch
the
out.
social media platforms will be chirping, but Alabama fans
Hmm.
will be coming out in full force. And I think right now there's a little less chatter because they know that they have some flaws and some warts. And I think Indiana will live up to the standard and advance to the Final Four and get it done. But this will be a major ego check for one of these two programs going forward.
Yeah. I went back and I looked here fresh. Alabama playing Oklahoma. Oklahoma was actually has a negative turnover differential. The difference in this football game to me compared to the first round game is Indiana has an offense to really press the Alabama defense. And Indiana is plus, I think, 17 in the turnover differential. Yeah, plus 17 turnover differential. They're not going to beat themselves. Like Alabama is going to have to win this football game. You can't rely on Indiana making mass amounts of mistakes to really hand you the game on a silver platter. I think at the end of this, it's going to come down to where does Alabama get some sort of semblance of a rushing attack? Like they haven't had a great ground game all season long. Can they get 85 yards on the ground by one player and at least make Indiana respect them running the football? Because if they can start doing that, that's a different story. I think Indiana wins this football game as well. I just think that they are a little bit more of a complete team. But I like the over in this game. I think there's going to be points scored. I don't think this is going to be a blowout. I don't think it's going to be that crazy off of being within the spread of it. 6.5 Indiana. If it does, I like it right at that 7 mark. But again, I think I'd probably take Alabama in the points just to kind of like hedge my bets in this one. I would take Alabama in the points, but I'd take Indiana in the straight up with it. I think Fernando Mendoza is a very smart, cerebral quarterback and will make some very, very good throws.
The Alabama secondary is going to really determine if Bama and those points are in play because those receivers, this is probably going to be the best receiver duo they're going to face all year. So Indiana's going to push the ball down the field. If they can stand up and actually make some plays, Xavier Brown and company, it'll make the difference. If that Alabama secondary is not up for the challenge on Surratt and company, Mendoza's going to have a field day. So pass rush and all, Bama hasn't had much of a pass rush. That secondary is going to have to be creative, and they're going to have to find ways. And Womack is going to have to be creative with the secondary, disguise coverages, and look at what Patricia and Ohio State did. How did you master those coverages to shut down this Indiana passing game and keep everything in front of you? I expect maybe to see a lot of 3 and 4, cover 3, cover 4, because if you don't have the pass rush, you're going to have to be creative at the back end to really force Mendoza to make big boy throws and sit back there a little bit and be creative. But it's going to be a lot of X's and O's early to get a feel out on how this game's going to be played.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a fun one to watch. All right, Fresh, let's go to the Sugar Bowl. It's going to be the last game of the evening on January 1st. Ole Miss is getting their rematch against the Georgia Bulldogs here right now. Time of record, Georgia is a 6.5-point favorite in this game. Over under set at 55.5. Listen, Fresh, we've talked about all year long. One of the biggest challenges that faces a lot of college football teams is beating the same team twice in a year. I think there's adjustments that are made. I think that there are changes in scheme that has gone on, especially with Ole Miss. Like we saw it as a different team with under Tulane because it's not Lane Kiffin's hands on the program as much. Now, again, is this Ole Miss team ready to play against a team like Georgia who wins the SEC here? We're going to find that out there. But I think this is going to be an intriguing matchup between the two schools to see which one of them is going to be able to kind of make the other team play their game. Because, again, I'm curious if I'm Ole Miss's coaching staff and I want to talk myself into trying to make a case for them beating Georgia, I'm going to say this. We got to play from ahead. We can't let Georgia get out and be up 14 on us in the second quarter, or even 10, and allow Georgia just to stranglehold the game. Because if that happens, Ole Miss's goose is cooked. Like, turn this game off, get to bed early, and recover from New Year's Eve if all of a sudden Ole Miss's game, in a stranglehold against Georgia. Ole Miss has to play from ahead in this football game. That would be the only real big thing I'm looking for with them. Trinidad Chambliss, looking good. My question is, Kawan Lacey. I haven't heard an injury update yet on him. So I don't know if he's playing in this game. It says bruised shoulder is what he said for that.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
There are injury reports in the playoff. You'll find out probably the next couple of days the exact status of that, how it's going to play out. Ole Miss should know they have confidence coming. It's mentality. We already know the X's and O's, and how it's going to play out. But the mentality of Ole Miss has nothing to lose. We've already played them once. We lost to them. Great. Our coach is gone. Half this team probably could be in the portal by the end of the game. If we lose, great. We already lost to them. If we win, it's the biggest upset. We'll probably be really excited. And it'll be the greatest season in Ole Miss football history. Blah blah blah. Go out there and do what you do. They already know that they scored on Georgia's defense back in October. They had a double-digit lead. They just could never put it away. And that fourth quarter is when they failed. They only had 13 yards total offense, if my memory serves me right, and they didn't score. When you get blanked in the end and you blow a double-digit lead like that, it shows, number one, we can score on Georgia's defense. We had success, but now we have to finish. How can we play a full 4 quarters? I think their goal right now is, can we get to a 20-point lead? Because we start playing ahead. They played ahead before. They couldn't finish it.
Mm-hmm.
The playing ahead is, can they put basically a 20-point lead? Because they had a substantial lead on Georgia, and Georgia fought back under Gunnar Stockton in that offense. So it's how do we get that point where it then gives us a major buffer? How do we come out early and just put the foot down and attack, not just offensively, but defensively? Where's our defense flying around and making plays? Because they couldn't get Georgia off the field either. Georgia was scoring, had 6 or 7 straight drives of touchdowns. So I'm trying to remember back from October, but it was consecutive drive, score, where they couldn't get off the field either. They just couldn't keep up the pace in the fourth quarter when it mattered. This is a challenge for Ole Miss. It's in a dome. You're going to play on turf. It's going to be a fast pace, and you have nothing to lose. And you're playing for the pride of showing that we're more than Lane Kiffin. And you're playing for Pete Golding. There's a lot a lot of opportunity there for Ole Miss to be successful. Georgia comes in very beat up, a lot of injuries trying to get back. The good thing they had the bye week after beating Alabama, winning the SEC, but now it's time to deliver because last time you were in the stadium, it was last New Year's. Obviously, there's a lot of drama going on with the terrorist attack on Bourbon Street on New Year's Eve, and obviously Kirby's father passing away, pushing the game back a day. A lot of things were happening, and then on top of that, it was Gunnar Stockton's first ever start, where they were in the ball game versus Notre Dame until a late touchdown with after a turnover with about a minute and a half to go before halftime. Gunnar turns it over. Notre Dame scores. The Notre Dame takes the opening kickoff in, scores, and boom, boom. Before then, it was just down out the gate 98, and the game was over. Where's the Georgia Bulldog mentality? You were here last year. You came in banged up. A lot of things were happening. It was just, can you handle the focus of time? Can you handle all the adversity? Can you make up for last year's miscues and be able to deliver? The pressure's on. Nobody expected you. There was kind of a you were underdog story last year, but this year you've shown that you are a very, very good football team. You've improved and you redeem yourself for last year's efforts. Can they get the running game a little bit more to maintain some of this? Because the fast pace earlier in the season was chaotic at best. If you can run the football, which they were in and out of earlier in October, getting much more of a steady run game, Frazier and that entire backfield, finding ways to get balance, keep the pressure on Ole Miss, take the pressure off the pass rush. The offensive line's been a little beat up with some injuries. That would help the running game. It helps the offensive line play a little more downhill and down forward. That will then open up to play action in the passing game. Defensively, you're going to have to force some turnovers early because there weren't many turnovers early and not a lot of Ole Miss to have success. Getting some third down stops. We've seen you have success, but now it has to be from the very jump. We saw it versus Alabama. We saw it versus Texas late. We saw it versus Georgia Tech. But early in the year, we're still trying to find yourselves. How have you grown versus the same opponent? We saw you grow in the second half versus Alabama, and then that team flipped over and you played dominant effort in the SEC championship game. Well, that kind of same similar. You had success in the fourth quarter. Can you carry that forward on Thursday night in the Bayou to take out Ole Miss? The players, for the most part, are going to be the exact same. But how schematically from a game of chess do you change, or do you keep building off your success? This is going to be a fun one. It's going to be kind of like people are going to be tired probably after multiple days of football and after the night before. The fans are you're going to have the energy up. Is the Bulldog Nation going to show up? Are the Ole Miss fans going to show up? Be ready to rock and roll and keep that place highlighted? And are the players going to be ready to get out there late at night and be able to accept the challenge? Night kickoffs are always different. And bowl games, a whole event. How do you keep the guys occupied and ready to go all day long? You're not in your own dorm. You're not in your own meeting room for a home game, or you're in a hotel all day long, just letting things go through the motions. Are you ready to be able to play from the moment the jump starts at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock Central Time there in New Orleans and get it done? Gunnar Stockton, what have you learned from last year to this year? This is not your first career start anymore. Your deep breath, come out there and control the offense, make the big boy throws. You don't have to throw 500 yards, but you have to keep doing what you've done all season long. Control, protect the football, make the third down throws. Remember, you can slide. You don't have to hurt yourself, but be mindful of the offense. Live to play another down because the turnovers last year led to Notre Dame getting that jump right before halftime. You were in the ballgame to then. Each thing, how do you control your emotions and be able to redeem yourself, but not let the moment get too big? The same thing for Trinidad Chambliss. This is the biggest game you played in. Every game going forward for him and Ole Miss is big. How do you control your emotions and be able to, keep yourself in line? In the end, I'm taking Georgia. Obviously, that was never going to be in question. But it's where's the mentality for both these football teams, and how do you control your emotions and be able to maintain expectation? Georgia had a lot of success with the tight ends. Lawson Luckley, Delp, Ellis Williams. I got a feeling they're going to be again involved because Ole Miss's linebacking and safety, groupings. How are they going to match up versus these tight ends and being prepared for the run game and then getting hit and play action? Corners and receivers is one thing, but that's where the Ole Miss defense is going to have to step up and taking away that 13 and 12 personnel mentality of we're ready to be able to be physical off the line of scrimmage, but cover when it matters how to play action. And in Georgia, that secondary, we've seen it grow. DeMello Jones, Ellis Robinson, and the safety groupings. Who is going to be able to force some turnovers and make some tackles on third down to get off the field? Backers, can you get home and contain Chambliss, who has that great mobility and be able to run on the edge? It's who wants it more in this ballgame. Both teams are very talented, but I think Kirby and the motivation of what happened last year in that stadium is going to carry them through the end of the day. Georgia wins a close one in advance to the Final Four, but this is going to be a fun one. If you're make sure you stay awake. Keep yourself going if you're watching on TV, but this is going to be a fun one. It's going to be a full four-quarter fight.
Yeah. I'm going to pick Georgia to win, and I'll say it that way. Right now, what I say, 6.5 point spread in this one. All right, because what my mind is telling me, Fresh, is I think this is a different Old Miss team than the one they played in October, and for a variety of reasons. One, you have your coach leave. It's different set. It's the same coaching staff, but it's a different coaching staff and philosophy for Old Miss. Two, I think a lot of these Old Miss players are pissed off. I think they feel like they're back. They've been kind of cheated on with the whole Lane Kiffin thing. I think that there's a variety of people out there. I really think I have yet to see a national person pick Ole Miss to win this football game. There's always like one or two guys who want to be the outlier, who want to
And
go
say,
with
hey,
the
I
under.
told you so.
Right, exactly. And I feel like there's a lot of what Nick Saban used to say, like, there's a lot of rat poison out there for us. And there's a lot of people who are giving us bulletin board material in this game. I think you're going to see a very, very motivated Old Miss team in this football game. Now, the complete opposite may be true as well. They got their one playoff win. We got our one playoff win. We'll pat ourselves on the back, and then, we'll go into this game. Yeah, we'll play hard for a half, but, Georgia's going to go up and they'll get up by double digits, and we'll kind of all just go on our merry little way, go the portal, go the draft, what have you, and kind of quit on this team, because there's so many reasons outside of what is going on with football that's happening with this Ole Miss program, that when you're dealing with young kids at 19, 20, 21 years old, do you have the mental toughness to just let that stuff motivate you and get right pissed off and just go after the next team in front of you? On top of that, too, is Georgia underestimating Ole Miss going into this football game? They don't have their head coach anymore. They've gone through all this drama. Are they reading the headlines where everyone under the sun is picking them to win the game? Oh, we got our SEC title. We beat Alabama. We vanquished all of our stuff here. And they don't prepare for this game to the same level and the same level of intensity. Now, again, I'm going to have a hard time believing that they don't prepare for that level. But again, we're dealing with 18, 19, 21-year-old kids. And does Georgia do they leave the door cracked open? Do they leave the door cracked open enough for Ole Miss to kind of barrel through? Like, you got to slam that door shut. You got to take out Ole Miss's hopes and dreams. You got to turn the Sugar Bowl into a nightmare. Like, you have to turn it into a nightmare for Ole Miss. If you leave the bedroom light on and the door cracked and knowing that there's hope there for it, this could be a very scary situation for Georgia. It could be. Not saying that will be, but it could be. I personally would take Ole Miss on the points just because I think Ole Miss is going to play a very spirited game and be very, very motivated. I think at the end of the day, I don't trust Trinidad Chambliss very much. I've been I think, reasonable critic of Gunnar Stockton all season, but I do like Stockton more than I like Chambliss there. And I do like some of the other things Georgia has on defense more than I like Ole Miss's defense there. I'm going to pick Georgia to win this football game. What I need to see, though, I need to see, and again, I've been asking for this, and it's just kind of been the thing. I need to see Nate Frazier over 100 yards. I just need to see it. I know Gunner runs the football. I know that Bowens comes in there and spells there. I need to see Nate Frazier take over the game because it tells me a couple of things. Because I know Georgia's missing their starting center, I believe. I think he's out for this game. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Drew Bobo's out.
That Bobo's out. And that tells me that they haven't lost the guy who's going to call out the protections. He's not going to call out the defenses. And you're going to be able to run the football against a defensive line that's maybe not as good as your offensive line. That's not impacting you at all. That's why I need to see those things. It's not I know they rotate guys. I know that they give guys spells, but I need to see because that's going to tell me that other things are happening that aren't, that, sometimes you don't see that are happening there. Again, I'm picking Georgia to win this game. If we're talking on the second about Ole Miss winning this football game, I think that we're going to be talking about a football team that is scary, motivated with all that extra noise, that has internalized that excess noise and let it fester into a like us against the world mentality. Georgia has the opportunity to shut that door and close it and say, nope, it's not going to be Ole Miss versus the world. It's not going to be, we're going to shut Lane Kiffin up and, you should never taken the LSU job, because that's what Ole Miss is fighting for right now. They're fighting for them to say, like, we are a good job. You should have stayed here and not gone to LSU. That's what they have to fight for. Georgia doesn't have that level of fight. They've won back-to-back national titles within this decade. They're a powerhouse program. They don't have that same, like, us against the world mentality that Ole Miss does. Again, I think Georgia's the better football team. I think they have more talent. I think they're going to win this football game. I'm just wondering if Ole Miss somehow, some way, just comes out swinging and is a huge upset in this football game. I don't necessarily know, but again, it would not shock me if it happens.
They already played this year earlier in the year, and that's where they had that moment of success. They saw they had a lead, but Georgia also knows that they have. It's a second
It
time
is.
around. Who makes the adjustment? Because they both have seen. Obviously, Georgia won the game, but Ole Miss had success. How do you capitalize, or how do you make adjustments based on that coming in this ball game? But it'll be a fun one worth watching out for. It.
You're going to know how that game's going to go by halftime.
But the funny part, and I think if regardless of how this game turns out, Pete Golding can walk in from a recruiting perspective and say he has more playoff wins than Brett Venables, Mike Elko, um, you know, uh, Lane Kiffin. And it's just it's a funny thing how it all plays out where he can look, it's a factual statement. I have more playoff wins as a head
Mm-hmm.
coach than some other, people across the country. It's just, it makes you laugh. It's just weird how you have a moment, you got to take advantage of it.
Right. So we'll see what happens, though, Fresh. I can't wait to see how these 4 games play out. Folks, before you head out of here, hit the subscribe button, because even after these 4 games, you're not going to want to miss our semifinal preview and our national championship preview. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, get notified every single time we drop a new episode. Make sure you're checking out spinnablesports.com, checking out the rest of the YouTube channel. Leave us comments. Let us know what you think. We've already been called idiots a couple of times in the comment section. What else is new? Don't necessarily disagree with the people, but I think we still have valid points against them. Special
Quote the
thanks to our
dude, you're
producer,
entitled
Drew.
to your opinion, man.
Yeah, that's like your opinion. Special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. Fresh, it's a great time. It's New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, bowl games, the best time of the year. And then we're on our way to crowning a national champion. So make sure you guys lock in. Engage with us on social media. We'll interact with you guys on there. With that, Fresh, that's all I got.
Hit us up, spinnablesports.com, Spinnable Sports YouTube channel. Spread the word. Enjoy us. At Twitter, at IR Confidence Pod. Get that there locked in with both of us. We'll go from there. And we'll talk to you about with our preview. We'll get the recaps of these 4 games. We'll get the preview for the semifinal, like Seth mentioned. But also, as we get toward the NFL playoffs after the national championship game, the layers keep going into the NFL draft. So stick with us. Spread the word. Enjoy it. Happy New Year, everybody. Go Dogs. Until next time. Bye, y'all.